Public advocate,
Larry Schimmel representing Public Advocate Tish James.
private members,
Michael Spitzer.
Mark Kaplan.
Bernard Rosen, John. Oh, mayor's office. I'm sorry. Forgive me, Mom. All right.
John Grathmore representing the mayor's office.
Thank you, sir. I forgot.
This works.
What?
There we go.
All right.
You want to speak directly into the...
It wasn't on. It wasn't on. He caught me by surprise. I'm not a private member.
Sorry, John.
No problem.
All right, we'll go by the agenda. First of all, again, I'd like to commend the Deloitte people on the job that they did. I can remember, as I said before, these little things used to be thin, so we had to get these big CAFAs in order to get information, but the disclosure is far better. I guess it could always be still better, but really it's a very nice job. The first system we'll go to is the teacher's retirement system. Could you introduce yourself, sir? Speak into the mic.
Mitchell Fruchter, Chief Accountant of Teachers.
You have a statement, sir? Just a few comments? All right, so go ahead, sir.
Okay, so 2015 financials.
It's a debt. It's okay? It's okay.
Yeah, I think I had to press the button. So the 2015, financials is the second, year that, TRS has issued this combined report. The report combines, both our, pension, 401A pension, and our 403B tax-deferred annuity. So it's also the second year, that we had, the financials had no disclosures in accordance to GASB 6768, and the Office of the Actuary issued, GASB 6768 report for the employers. In addition, 2015 was the first year that we just implemented GASB 72, which is an investment disclosure, breaks down our assets into categories. It can be found on, on the CAF on page 51. In terms of I guess I'll just go into the net position. Our net position as of 6/30/15 was $44.3 billion, which is 0.5% less than the $44.5 billion of 6/30/14. The TDA net position as of 6/30/15 was $27.3 billion, which is up around 5% from the $25.9 billion as of 6/30/14. That's why I think in the combined our combined assets, net position is $71.6 billion. It's probably why I'm up here first, because in the city CAF run, I guess page 174, you have us as the largest pension system now. Again, it's really because it's combined. I mean, it's two separate things: the pension and the 403B. I could go into returns. Equity markets were mixed. Russell 3000 was up 7.3%, but international index, Morgan Stanley, Capital, their index was down 3.8 for the year. So the markets were mixed, and that's why we were kind of flat. Except we made some income in the fixed income assets, but we also paid out money to the TDA. So that's why we were, again, the net position for the QPP was down 0.5%. In terms of the actual pension fund returns, we have two numbers. We have the time-weighted average is 2.99. That's found on page 80 of the CAFRA. We also, the part of the GASB 67, 68 is for the disclosing the money-weighted return, which was 2.81%, which is I think on page 54 of the CAFRA. So again, it was either time-weighted return for the pension fund of 2.99 or 2.81 using a money-weighted return. So obviously the 2.81, let's say, is less than the 7% that is our expected return, both for, in terms of our actuarial calculation and also the same amount that the tax-deferred annuity, the tax-deferred annuity gets by statute at 7%. On a longer-term basis, our CAFRA on page 80 shows a 6.81% return for the pension fund. That's it. Funding, our funding of the different measures, but it's say 58% using as of 6/30/14. That's what we show in our CAFRA. It's already, it's required in the introduction already. So that's the basic summary of our basic net position. The MD&A has other breakdowns of financial activity by disclosure, some breakdown of the TDA and QPP cash flows, and percent holding by funds because we have these different funds. So I don't know. That's I guess all I got.
If I might,
Yeah.
I'd like to go to page 7.
Yeah.
It's relevant to the
On this one, not on the big cat.
Okay.
yeah, on your
On the blue book.
blue book.
Okay.
It's relative to the relationship between the TDA
Yeah.
and the qualified pension fund.
Yeah.
That there's a payment, I believe, from the fund to the TDA each year
Right.
of a little over $1 billion.
Right.
Now, that I assume, help me out here, is because the TDA is doing a payout and doesn't have enough assets in their system.
No. No, that's the guaranteed, the statutory return of 7%.
Well, that's my point.
So-
The TDA members.
No, the fixed return investment option for the TDA, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the fixed return investment option is essentially a loan by the TDA members' accounts to the QPP
Right.
with a guaranteed interest return of 7 or 8%, depending on where you are. This is, in fact, the payment of that interest.
But that's the cost. Part of the fact that we have that
Yes.
guaranteed. That's
Yes.
my point.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said because
Yeah,
they ran
no,
out of
no,
cash.
I-
I
no,
It's
that was
misunderstood.
nothing to run out of
Yeah.
cash. It's the fact that we have this drawdown every year of over $1 billion because we have this fixed guaranteed payment, which none of the other systems have as an option.
Right.
Board of
Oh,
Education.
okay.
I,
Pardon. But it's a
I
very,
think-
very significant cost.
And it's growing.
And growing. So I just want to highlight, it's pretty much about a third of what the city's contribution to this system is every year, which is basically related to one particular benefit, not within the pension fund, but in the tax-deferred account, which allows them to get a guaranteed return in excess of what anybody else in any other kind of market could do.
So
you're not going to get 7% anywhere in this.
No,
And
but
it-
this,
but I'm
we have, I think it's something that, people should be aware of.
No, he's being, he's
Yeah,
making.
I agree with
yeah, and it's
he's
by
making a good-
statute.
I
mean,
understand,
yeah.
but I just think it's something that's so expensive as part of this, that we can't just let it slide through
My
as
memory-
an accounting entry.
Right.
It's true. And I just want to thank again that the systems, TRS and BERS, both worked very hard in the last couple of years to make this presentation possible.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Right. At least, now I think this one real benefit of the combined report is showing, the
Sure.
actual, how how the money is moving, from one to another. And
So that's what I was going to ask. 3 years ago, when they weren't combined,
Yeah.
you would have still shown this transfer out of the teacher system?
It was considered at the time our auditor had the benefits paid. So we had a very large benefits paid. So
Paid because it was in the benefits paid
Right.
rather than highlighted.
Right. So it showed up. You could see that we
Yeah.
were paying.
It appeared
there-
as if it was a cost of a general pension benefit and
Right.
not
And,
related to one specific benefit.
Am I right? Like we've been talking about it here. That at some point, certain people get 8.25% guaranteed.
Right. Yes.
How much
and
does
the
that
non-
amount to?
Not too much. I mean,
There's
the
not-
UFT. It's the UFT members get 7%, and that's what when they, statute changed it. I think in like 2009, it was the UFT members because they're 95, more of our population. So the rest is some. There's a different contract, so it
Well, how
you have
much
to
would
do it.
be-
But
how much-
I don't have the exact number of the 8 point. I don't have the number of 8.25%, but I know, we know that the UFT teachers make up the vast majority of this
In
amount.
2009, the statute changed. Prior to that, the benefit was better.
Right, it was 8.25.
Higher guaranteed benefit.
That's
Prior to
right.
2009, it dropped to the 7% guaranteed
Yeah.
benefit in 2009.
I'd like
Yeah.
to have that.
Well, so would
Yeah.
I. And I think it's something
Right.
that generally should be aware of.
Right.
And should
Yeah.
be part of that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, are you suggesting that the audit committee, in its annual report, focus on that?
I'm
You'll
suggesting
get
that
your
we
head
make it
handed to you.
clear
I don't mind.
in that in reviewing the financial statements of the pension systems, that a very, very significant cost relates to one benefit outside of the normal pension, but it's because within the TDA account, members have the option of selecting a guaranteed 7% market return, no matter what's happening in the market. Now, maybe legislatively, decades ago when this thing was set up, the rate of interest that was guaranteed might have been reasonable within those market conditions. It was probably done back when, we were talking about inflation rates in double digits and market returns were very high. But what happened is by statute, they selected a rate then, put it in place forever, and now we're paying over $1 billion to allow members of the TRS pension system to get a guaranteed 7% return. And it's something that I think should at least be made public, and it's a positive thing that we've merged the two statements together so it's clear what is driving the cost. Before, it appeared if it was just the general cost of the TRS pensions, because it was a pension benefit. Now, it's been highlighted, and we see what's really driving this cost.
Right. I mean, it is,
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, it is. I mean, we did again in 2009 was the year that there was a slight legislative change from the 8.25 basically to 7%. And if you do the numbers, it's really it's 7%. Or it's because that's really the UFT is by far our membership. But it was changed in 2009. I don't know what happened in that legislatively, what the other
It was
options
part of the
were.
collective bargaining process.
Yeah. So I mean, we do know that the 7% is the investment return. So if we reach 7%, if we goes, if the market does better than 7%, then we make money.
Right.
Last year we made a lot of
Hasn't
money.
happened
So-
very often. No, I don't think I'm suggesting there's anything that our folks from TRS need to do per se. They now are reporting this in such a way that it's much clearer what the cost is. And if our role simply is to highlight that this is the cost of this particular benefit, and then whoever, elected officials or whatever, can choose whether or not this is something that they want to pay $1 billion a year for this particular benefit versus whatever else the city could spend $1 billion on.
Yeah. And it's getting it will be at least 1.3 billion.
Right.
So
I'm rounding.
How is the number determined?
How's the number determined? The
The
number
billion
we
two.
have the number itself. Again, it's basically UFT member gets 7%. The accounts, each one.
So you
has,
look at the accounts.
Yeah, and
It's a straight mathematical computation, not even an actuarial computation. Am I
right.
right, John?
It's a record keeping. It's a function of record keeping. The record keep. database. You know,
It's a straight cost of the benefit that year.
Just for, I respect the collective bargaining position, and legislators have to understand the implications of which they do. So it isn't within this board's purview to do that. But I do think that people should take a look at page 46 at the expected rate of returns on the asset classes to give a perspective as to where it falls. And one could argue it is reasonable with the 7% actuarial rate. Others may look at the asset classes and make a different determination. But I think it is important that you're raising this issue.
No, I think it's just that we should recognize how much it's been costing over the last 3 or 4 years for this particular benefit.
And I think it's clear that this presentation makes it much easier to see those facts.
Oh, definitely.
And so it's a positive change that we've changed the presentation. I think it makes it much clearer for people what the true costs are.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, so by way of disclosure, since you're the first board, I sit on the board of NYSERS, as I guess some other folks do. So I have some information on some of the processes. NYSERS adopted a new mortuality tables. I know our actuary's office is here, which has significant fiscal implications, both to each of the systems, and I believe the mayor prudently in his budget has allocated at least last year's allocation for that. How is the system integrating those changes? Has it changed the percentage of the funding status, or is it fully funded?
I mean, in terms of, I guess we'll get from the actuary the update on how the mortality tables, will change the funding status. I mean,
Mr. Schimmel, is the
it was
question
implemented.
that
I'm sorry, Bernie.
Why don't you?
It was implemented for fiscal year 16, so it's not in the fiscal year 15.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Reports. So and it increased the city's contribution.
I guess you're both right. There was the 16, and the mayor's office did provide the budget provides the additional funding for it.
That's correct. Starting with fiscal year 16.
So starting with fiscal year 16.
So from a point of view of funding status, the system is at the same point it was prior.
Well, no, it's an unfunded liability that costs the city approximately $600 million a year.
Okay.
But beginning fiscal year 16, these are the fiscal year 15.
The mortality changes for all the systems.
Yes, sir.
It was would increase pension contributions by approximately $600 million a year.
For the entirety of the 5 systems, that's correct.
I'm sorry, sir.
For the 5 systems in total, that's correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I always like to look at a very simple calculation, even late at night. Contributions plus interest income plus dividend income. How does that shape up against the benefits payable? It would be great, except when you take off the $1.2 billion, you're kind of short.
Yeah.
Whereas in the TDA system, easily they cover the benefit payments with the $1.2 billion. I mean, it's just a simple mathematical thing. So that raises the question, does the teacher system have to sell some fixed assets because of that, or they don't bother?
No, again, because the interest is only paid on a withdrawal. Even if you pay $1.2 billion, it doesn't affect us.
It's too small to.
It's not that it's too small, just that it doesn't. The money is pooled together, so it's it just.
So the cash flow on the 1.2 is very slow.
Right. The cash flow is a withdrawal. When the person, who actually got the interest withdraws money, then we're affected. So you could even look into when are they going to withdraw money. Who's going to invest in fixed, those type of things. But the 1.2 doesn't affect us like that.
Okay. I had a question. I'll ask on the GASB 72. Yeah. Where is it now? 46, I think. I had it. I'm using this. We're level 1, level 2, level 3.
Right.
Who does that Who does that determination within to GASB?
Again, in general, we work with the custodian. I mean, for
you work
the custodian. For the pension fund, it's State Street, and and for our variable funds, we have our money at Chase. So we get reports and work from them. Yeah.
I know, of course, in some cases, the total of the 3 levels, I think here too, doesn't quite equal the total investments in the balance sheet.
It should. We did check it. So
I'm
I mean,
sorry?
and the auditor also checked it. So I hope it does equal.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
there may be certain investments that
Yeah.
don't get classified.
Right, but yeah, the basic practice was to try to match up with the assets that we're
Well, all right,
reporting.
but
in
the
our,
investments in the balance sheet was 75 point, was 75. Let me just see.
Excuse me, Bernie, what page are you referring
Let's
to?
go back, I'm sorry.
42 and
That's the
44.
variable. I'm on the wrong page. Let's go to page 39. I think on page 39, the total of the three levels is 63.5 million. On the balance sheet, it's 66.6 million. So there
Right.
must have been something.
Correct. Yeah, we have security lending.
So that's excluded.
Yeah, that's excluded. Yeah, that's not really our assets. That's collaterals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted.
Yeah.
And the determination of 1, 2, and 3 is done in accordance with the discussion with the custodian of the assets?
Correct. The custodian. I mean, I think these are just basic. What do you call them? Standards or regulations that they have reports for this to break down assets by type. For I guess some asset classes are harder to determine than others. I mean, stocks and bonds are pretty much levels 1 and 2.
I had this comment of all of them. It's the first time I've ever seen.
It's a new disclosure.
No. The Treasury bills are a level 2.
They should be 1, right?
U.S. governments. Because
Yeah.
if you look at the definition, Treasury bills, there's a huge market in Treasury bills.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I didn't understand why they would use government paper. I guess long-term U.S. government paper, but there's an enormous market in every part of U.S. securities. And why is it level 2?
So, in consultation with our auditors, when we implemented 72, the method of auction for those securities means that the market value is not known until the time of auction. And in fact, there are multiple values paid, multiple amounts paid for those.
I think what you're saying is the market value doesn't come to the stated value until the maturity. And that's why they
No. It has to do with the way they're sold by the government agencies.
No, but there's a huge secondary market in that case.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, I used to be a government bond dealer, and we had a huge flow of transactions every day.
I will get back to you with a fuller distinction,
lose this question,
but I will
but
tell
it's
you
all
that
of
it
them.
has been significantly examined.
Michelle, can I add to that?
Please.
Go speak up,
So,
David Jetter.
After long hours of discussion over 1s and 2s, where we ended up with level 1 are things that are actually observable priced, where you can see a price independent of the market. So that we, with Deloitte, with our custodian bank, determined that the auction market was not an observable market, and therefore you couldn't see a price until, and that's why 1 became 2. So your 1s are everything that you can independently go out into the marketplace on your own and get a price without an auction, without a broker, without a party in the middle. And many hours of going back and forth were put into that discussion.
Okay.
There are people who are solidly 1s and solidly 2s. But I'm just giving you the background. We can go back and revisit it.
If you look at the way the world operates, equity securities then would be
always 1.
Always 1, even though there's a much more liquid market for government paper.
Yes, that's true.
Go ahead.
Makes no sense.
The other thing I would just add is during this whole conversation process, so this was one of these big topics of discussion that went around quite a bit. So we also reached out to the GASB. We got their view, and they also were of the view that the government security should be in a level 2. So we did talk about it internally in the firm. We also talked to the standard setters
and the government bond people, the dealers.
Well,
We're
they
not
want to be one.
consulted.
They always won, right?
I understand that.
The tips, you can't understand it, can you? The tips should be the same. All right,
The tips,
that's
it is amusing to me that the whole world views U.S. government securities as the absolute top credit, and now we have it as 2 on our balance sheets.
Remember, the levels do not have to do with valuation. They only have, I mean, they don't have to do with security. They only have to do with valuation. All right. It's only how we use, what information we use to determine the number we put on the financial statements. It is not any assessment of credit worthiness.
Okay.
It's hard.
I quit.
I
tell you, when I had that balance sheet, somebody put this on as a level 2, I'd have blown my core.
I really think you can get into trouble with a schedule like that. You really can.
We consulted many parties, including including the World Trade Center Captive Insurance Company, which had actually they had implemented this based on FASB rules. It was an acceptable thing to do under GASB rules, and they wanted this classification, and they handled it the same way.
All right, let me give up. The one thing I'm not going to give up is please capitalize the V in the city of New York. I'll show you. It's in every one of these things. What does he mean?
But also, in the required...
I'll show you some more stuff.
If I may, in the required supplementary information, page 50 in the Blue Book, where it says planned fiduciary net position is a percentage of the total pension liability. Let me ask John Gibney, is that like a funding ratio, the 68.04?
It's actually a GAS. It's a GAS.
I'm sorry?
That's actually a GASB ratio. It's literally the...
So if you were doing funding ratios, you wouldn't do it this way?
It would be one of many possible funding ratios.
That's a cagey answer, John.
Can I quit too?
But it's now the industry standard for governments because it's now the standard because all governments report under the GASB rules. Yeah. So it's comparable to others.
It is a good proxy for the funded.
I'm sorry.
It is a good proxy for the funded standard
thank you
because
very much.
because it's the entry age accrued liability as a percentage of the assets.
Could we say that if the fund went bankrupt, we could pay off 68 cents on the dollar? No. I'm just kidding.
No, you could.
No.
That's not an unreasonable statement.
It's not unreasonable.
No, but it would be.
John, you're a conservative guy. If you're agreeing with me,
but it would be paying it off at a 7% interest rate.
I'm sorry, sir.
It would be paying it at a 7% interest rate.
Okay, that's fair enough.
That's not an annuity purchase rate, which would be much higher. But it is if you were going to pay it out of the trust fund and you were going to assume 7% long term.
That's fair.
Then it is a reasonable comment.
I'll have comments because I made them on the earlier version.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions of the teachers' retirement system? Okay, thank you, sir. The TDA is in existence many, many years, isn't it?
1970.
And those, they used to, before they showed them, they always said that the TDA was member money. It didn't belong to the city.
Correct, it still is member.
It still is all member money.
It's always member money.
Except we pay for it. Okay, go ahead.
Good job.
All right. Okay, thank you. The next order of business is the Board of Ed retirement system. What do we have there? Oh, he's coming. They were over there.
Board of Ed.
Yeah. Board of Ed. They all have the same.
They also have a TDA
That's
program.
what I can get.
All right.
Marked it on.
Good morning. Could you introduce yourselves, please? Thank you.
Sure, I'm Sandy Rich. I'm the new executive director of BERS.
JD DeMond Accounting.
Rick Hedman, Chief Accountant.
Did you have a statement, sir? Do you want to say a few things, or whoever?
Okay. First, I want to say Sandy came in January, so we had a turnover twice this year with our executive directors. Ms. Bailey left in April, and we had an interim acting. Harvey Gordon was our attorney counselor, and he left in December, the end of December, and then Sandy came in January. So, so one of the things that happened with this year end of the CAFA was some decisions weren't made. So we reached out to the controller's office, and we're trying to work with them, and we still don't have things the way we like it with the new GASBs. So we expect that to happen this year. So the CAFA, we had last minute changes in December, and we finalized it, like right before Christmas there. So that, but our fixed return was a little short, 3.4 versus the 3.5. It wasn't a good year, and I think it was all the pensions, so we didn't have a good year. But over a 10-year term, we're still ahead of our benchmark of 7.1. We're at 7.3, and
an annualized rate of 7.
Yes. And the next thing is that this will be my last year here in front of you, so I will be retiring in August.
Good luck to you, sir. A long, healthy retirement.
So thank you, and that's it.
Many of your members, UFT members, not really, are they, or all of them?
No, UFT goes to TRS.
To TRS.
There's certain titles that are BERS titles, and once they graduate, like para into a teacher, they go over to teachers.
So you have the paras?
Yes.
All the paras, mostly?
No, some of them.
Some of them.
Non-ped paras.
The non-ped paras.
So how many people are in your?
Well, the whole thing, 45,000. Active and inactive and retirees, and some that are non-participating. Basically, they're waiting until they turn 62 to collect. In other words, they were in the system for 10 years. They're vested,
and then
they'll collect later on.
I guess when they allowed part-timers to join, that's when you grew a little bit because you got all the paras. Is that it, or?
Well, we have like the custodial workers. We have the school food lunch workers are all part-timers.
Okay. So you have quite a bit.
And the pensions aren't big for some of them. Like they have.
No, I could.
Over the years, because if they're only working part-time, their full-time equivalent may take them every 2 years to get 1 year.
Okay, that's fair enough, sir. And the TDA program, who was in that TDA program? All your employees?
No, it's elective. They have to. They request it.
So it could be a full-timer or a part-timer, whatever.
Correct.
Within the guidelines of the 403B, I guess.
Similar.
Similar. Okay. And they're also giving a lot of money, Bud, to the TDA program, over $1 billion. Which takes away cash from you people. Well, what can you do?
Well, as long as you're investing it
wisely,
it's good use of the money.
No, it's...
And we have to thank BAM for that. They're on top of that for us.
Okay. Thanks. And I just wanted to get to that disclosure. So on page 40 of the Blue Book, again, go ahead, Mr. Gibney. I'll let you get to it. So I want to ask my question. So the planned fiduciary net position is a percentage of the total pension liability, 75.33%.
Yes, so you'll see this exhibit in each of the 5 systems.
Yeah.
And it is the same
And it's kind of a surrogate for a funded ratio, you're saying?
Yes, sir, it is.
I guess for a small system like this, it's not a bad percentage. Or is it a big system?
So we're the smallest out of the 5.
No, I know out of the 5. Your ratio was better than teachers, but it's just a question of the way the numbers worked. Go ahead.
When the current unfunded liability was established, it was established to pay off the debt, if you will, over a 22-year period of time. And we're now 6 years into it.
So
there's an expectation that you would not be 100% funded because you're clearly paying off a large unfunded liability that was established at June 30th, 2010. So the contribution each year, a piece of it goes to writing down that large unfunded, which will be done over that 22-year period of time, and then the normal cost contribution is the benefits accruing to the current members. So the city on an annual basis is paying the cost of the benefits accruing to the current members, and over this 22-year period of time that will end on 2032, they should be fully funded. So you'd expect that that funding ratio would get bigger every year.
Every year.
It drops a little bit, especially in this exhibit, because there's no smoothing of the assets in this exhibit.
Sorry, sir?
There are no smoothing of the assets in this
This is
exhibit.
whatever they are.
This is a
As of
market.
that date.
That's right. A market value of assets against an accrued liability. In any year when the assets didn't meet their 7% target, you'll see that funding drop. And if it went the other way, you would see it go up. But over that 22-year period, each of the plans should become fully funded.
And that's on the assumption of what, the 7% return, right?
Yes, sir.
Right now, yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, that's for the whole period.
Yeah.
Average
Yeah.
7%
Correct.
a year all the way across for all that time in order to make this work.
Yes, sir.
And of course, if you have a bad year in the early days, getting back to that 7% is more than 7%.
Clearly.
But the 2 prior years, I believe, were
Very
18
good.
and 18 and 12.
Yeah, last year we had a very good year.
Well, the market was a little rocky last year, but it seems to be on track. All right, getting back to the so your TDA program is not that small. I mean, there are quite a bit benefits being paid, and there are the transfers.
When you say small, it's $4 billion.
The transfers are quite substantial from the qualified pension plan.
All the members are, it's good that they're using it.
And the return on your TDA program is also 7% on the fixed.
No, it's they get an interest rate of 8.25%.
This is the 8.25%.
What? Yeah, 8.25%.
8.25%. And you say it's small, but it's 8.25%. And is that of the total amount of assets? How much gets that 8.25%?
No, you can't make that calculation.
Yeah,
it's a big number.
Fixed portion.
Take the mic, sir. Could you move the mic up? It's not too much trouble to you, sir.
No, it's only on the fixed portion that they
Right, so
earn
I'm just
8.25
asking
years.
how much of the money involved here draws an 8.25% interest rate?
Mark, if you look at page 10,
It's in here. Yeah.
there's a line on the balance sheet that says, due to the TDA program from the QPP.
And that's the number?
That's I believe, the fixed,
Yes, it
the
is.
value of the fixed return fund, which is the
it's
member
roughly
contributions plus interest accumulated at the statutory 8.25% rate.
It's roughly $1 billion.
Yes.
It's-
Or it
it's-
was
it's
as of
pa-
June
Page
30th.
9 is the current year, though.
Page 9 is the fourth, yes.
9.
Part of this benefit, Mark, is you're not making a commitment to a long-term investment. You can move in and out of the guaranteed benefit.
Yeah, that's a lot of
It's
flexibility.
a wonderful thing. I like that.
So it's not like I say, I'm going to take the guaranteed option and I'm investing for a 10-year period.
I guess
I can change it as I see significant changes in the market.
at the 8.25%, they should be breaking down the doors to join. I would think they really should if they can afford it. That's really the issue: affordability.
Heck, no,
Your people don't
Bernie,
make
you
that
can go
much
out
money.
and borrow at a bank at less money and use the arbitrage to be very happy. You don't need any money.
It's
I'm sure people are gaming the system like crazy.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're talking the level of sophistication of this.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think that.
Well, but are you under some obligation to explain to them what they're giving up by not doing it?
We have outreach programs that we try to,
No, sure.
We go out to the field and each borough will try to recruit them. We'd like to have 100% membership, but we don't have that.
Okay.
But there's a waiting period before you can move in and out of the fix
Yes,
to go to the
that's
variable.
right. That's right. 3 months, right? And who manages you? Is it Prudential still that manages?
This will be their last year where BERS has been on a 5-year project of creating our own enterprise system. So we'll be transferring in May from Prudential to BERS.
To your own system.
To our own system.
Teachers, they use.
They have their own system also.
Also, I see.
As a matter of fact, I think they're going under a rehaul right now that they just requested.
It's a big operation, TD. I remember when it started. I dare say there must be teachers who taught a long time, and thank God they're well and they're retired. I don't think some of them will ever reach the corpus from the TVDA. Do you know what I mean? The 7% of their corpus that they get every year, even if they live a long time, they won't hit the corpus. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Once that corpus is so large and the, mandatory payment, it's tremendous. But Art, it's a great program. It's something that the reunions can be proud of. The other city workers went to the deferred compensation plan, the 457, which was not as good, but it's not bad either, and that's expanded. Do we have any more questions for the Board of Ed retirement system? Thank you all for coming. Good luck to you, sir.
I did read this damn thing, and now I could see.
Thank you. 8 1/4. Okay, NICES is next.
Okay, Ricky, thanks.
Just out of curiosity, because I finally found my notes. I assume that the portfolio that owns taxable bonds.
Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Are taxable munis? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to be in a tax exempt.
Michael Goldson, Director of Finance at NICERS.
John Hartman, Associate Director of Finance at NICERS.
Oh, nuts. I did do this.
Did you have a little statement on the MD&A or anything you wanted to say first?
Yes. The net increase in the position for the year was only $419 million. So that's not very much at all compared to the total. Our the net investment income was only about $1.2 billion. That, of course, doesn't come even close to being able to cover the benefit payments, which are $4.3 billion. So the main thing that even things out so that we sorry. Okay, sure. So the main thing that got the retirement system through was the fact that our employer contributions were $3.2 billion because there wasn't enough. There wasn't sufficient investment income.
I think your cash flow was adequate to pay for the benefit payments when you include, John, the interest and dividend income. I think so. I think it was.
Right, that's what he's saying, together with the contribution.
Contributions, yeah.
Right,
I
right.
think I don't think you have to go out and sell any assets because of the benefit payments. Given all those numbers, I may be wrong, but I don't think so.
Where are we? The interest. Well, interest and dividend income is only $1.4 billion.
Okay.
And our benefits are over $4 billion.
But again, with your contributions and
Right.
your interest and dividend income, you more than cover your benefits.
Yes, with the employer contributions.
Yeah, you do it. I think.
Right. I was just making the point that it's
No,
it's the employer contributions that went to pay the benefits to a great extent. And basically everything was the entire portfolio was flat for the entire year. You know, it went up and down, but it didn't actually go anyplace at all. Our on the MD&A, our total investment performance for the year was 3.11%, and the benchmark return was aimed for 3.9%. And of course, we're well fixed. One thing in recent years is because the fixed income, of course, the interest is very low.
Very low. Yes, yes.
I mean, at some point a few years ago, there was enough interest to contribute to paying the benefits. And last year, their fixed income only returned 1.25%.
I guess this. I'm sorry, Bernie. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mark.
I should have asked this of everybody. Everybody seems to have a fair-sized position in non-U.S. assets, non-U.S. denominated assets. Yours looks like $8.8 billion. Do you hedge any of that in the currency? Or do you
No, there's no currency hedging in our non-U.S. portfolio.
Okay.
The purpose is to diversify the investments. So if you hedge, then you lose the value of having investments in multiple currencies.
Yes, but you also have the risk.
You have to mitigate.
And because the foreign currency risk here talks about.
What page, Joe?
I'm on page 31. That the exchange rates will adversely impact the fair value of the investment. A change in currency also impacts not just the translation of the stock, but the business of the company that's in the other jurisdiction. That risk I don't think is focused on here. And it is a risk. I don't know if you want to say anything about it.
It's a risk. It's a risk based on the nature of their businesses. We don't know how many of their investments are in export markets. So
I don't know either, but I've seen that statement thrown in occasionally.
So Mark, so all the non-U.S. portfolios are still benchmarked against a relevant benchmark. So they do take into account the companies that are in those benchmarks. So it's part of the overall equation. It's not. It's not measured. So you're just saying the note doesn't reflect that.
Yeah.
Okay.
David, pretty much you've lowered the equity exposure of all the systems? At one time, you were about 70%. You're a little less now. Maybe it's
we probably go between 65 and 70, depending on the fund. So
you're still pretty high on
what you're
equity.
seeing is a shift from public market securities into more private equity, real estate, and things.
A
like
lot
that.
of private equity.
Yeah, but we're still about
So
policy
when
wise,
you
we're still
add in
70.
the private equity, you're pretty much at that 65 to 70%.
Yeah.
What are some of the alternative investments that they're going into? Real estate?
We have real estate, private equity,
hedge
we're in
funds.
some of the systems are in hedge funds, not all. We have some opportunistic debt investments that we make.
Now, at one time, I think it was stated that.
Speak up, Bud.
At one time, I think, as far as investment policy was stated, you were letting some of your older private equity investments lapse out.
Yes.
And trying to rebalance that. How's that process going?
So, as you know, these are about 10-year commitments. So basically, it's going to take. We did go out in the marketplace once a few years ago to sell in the secondary market. We're going to look at that again. We haven't made that decision yet, but for the most part, it'll take another.
You recognize you just best course was to hold some of those earlier investments,
and then also we're going into larger investments going forward on a more relationship level. So hopefully if you look at the newer returns, they actually are better.
Now, and your investment expense is rising somewhat. I
Investment
assume it's
expense
part of this
reflects-
process
Investment expenses have been going up as part of that process.
because as you moved out of equities that were
about 25 and 30 basis points we moved into.
very low cost, and as you move into the alternatives, you're picking up a more significant investment expense.
Yes, that's true.
If you look at the categories of asset classes.
What page?
At 43. The high yield as a category is more like the equity markets in some ways, depending on where you are in the high yield business.
Yes.
And it seems
That's a different copy.
It seems to me that saying that, if, for example, if you had 33% of fixed income in high yields.
So the high yield bonds are still part of the fixed income indices in the marketplace.
Are still part of what?
The high yield bonds are still part of the fixed income.
I understand that. But
yeah, so that's why they're part of our policy of fixed income. Yes, they're more equity-like for turn-wise.
And one of my ongoing concerns relative to the alternative investments is the ability to price them. You're relying substantially on the manager to tell you how much these things are worth. Have we done any additional work to confirm those numbers?
So we meet with, each manager, most managers have a third-party vendor that they use for pricing. We've spent much more time talking to those vendors. Deloitte looks at the valuations. So we've done more to get comfortable with those valuations. But the process is still ultimately relying on.
Right, because as this goes on and you're more in the alternative market, bigger percentage of our portfolio, though, and a sudden repricing of any of that could have a very significant impact on the contribution, if you would say.
So keep in mind, you're still talking about individual investment. So a turn in a single investment, we limit that.
Right.
You would need a turn.
But as the whole amount of alternative
Yes.
investments go up, a greater portion of your portfolio is getting more and more difficult to price.
And that's reflected in the GASB 72 that shows level 3 assets. Yeah.
Also, in 2014, you changed custodian banks. Has that been a positive change?
I would say yes. We have better record keeping.
Prompter notification of returns?
More accurate and better, yeah.
Because,
so
an
that's
ongoing
least a
historical problem was getting information quickly and accurately.
So we're online with State Street every day. So we actually know our portfolio on a daily unaudited basis. We have monthly audited pricing. So it's a much better relation.
Okay, thank you.
Who handles the margin on the security loans?
And
Who watches the margin on the security loans? In one of these statements.
On the security lending?
On the securities lending?
Yeah.
So we have a
Because on
securities...
one of the balance sheets, they were exactly matching the liability and the asset, which means that the idea of getting an excess margin on the collateral wasn't there.
So that's how it's historically been reported. There is a margin of 102.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not reflected in how that how that's reported though. So what you're actually seeing is the market of the collateral. That's the 102% actually, but in the presentation it's netted out. So that's actually the marked up value that
So
you're
that
seeing.
the market value of the collateral
Is what you're seeing in the financial.
But when I see that the size of the loan and that number are exactly the same. And so I thought we were getting extra margin.
We are. So the presentation doesn't reflect.
You don't show it, though.
What you're questioning. So what's on loan, that number, what you're seeing in the presentation, and I agree
Without
with you.
the
It
margin.
zeroes out with that includes the margin over what's out in loan. It's
Well, but
presented in a way that it doesn't show that. I agree.
Okay, it's missed it because I looked at one number on the asset side and one number on the liability side,
And
they
they-
were the same.
Yes.
And that shouldn't be economically.
Yes.
So why are you carrying it that way?
So I believe the presentation is designed to keep the asset value of what's on the books. So we actually we reflect the lending. I mean, we could, Michelle, you want to? I know what he's talking about. It's not there though. It's not there.
If you think about it, the fact that the assets have that value is not relevant to our ownership interest.
Yeah.
Right. We only own the value up to 100%.
Right. Well, but shouldn't there someplace be a disclosure?
There could be a disclosure. Yeah, a disclosure
spread
might be
for-
appropriate, but the numbers shouldn't be
Because
inflated.
The whole idea is that you want to have somebody watch the margin. And my other question is, who watches that for you?
Actually, so we have a Citibank is our lending agent. The agent's responsible for
Who was you?
Citibank.
Citibank.
They're responsible for marking the portfolio each day, and actually asking for increased margin if
Because
necessary.
I saw something in here in one of these that said, in effect, that agent is indemnifying us against loss on the loan. It's in one of the
for borrower default.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they lend, the relationship between Citibank and the borrower. If the borrower fails to return the security, Citibank indemnifies us 100%. So we don't bear that risk. The risk that we bear is the reinvestment risk, which we're basically reinvesting in government security. So that's a very low risk.
Item 1, right? Item 1.
Until something happens.
John, on the variable supplement funds, you have just a transfer to the correction officers?
On the VSF.
Move your mic over.
No. For the VSFs, there's the 4 police VSFs, Housing Transit Police, and that they have benefits that they pay every year of 12 to $13 million, and they don't have assets of their own. And so then there's the transfer from NICERS to those 4 police VSFs. The correction officer only comes into play when there's what now they're calling, we used to call skim.
What?
And that was it.
I always thought that was a very unfortunate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that term doesn't go over too well. To earnable,
Transferable earnings.
true transferable earnings, and so there was a large trans earnings that went over a year ago of about $190 million, and this year's was only $30 million.
Let me ask John Gibney. When the variable supplement funds were kind of institutionalized, for want of a better term, in the 80s. I know you weren't here, but one of the points that was made that no matter how well the market performed better than the fixed income, if you did a valuation and they had enough assets to pay their benefits, a transfer would not take place. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir. That's generally correct. We calculate a value of the benefits that have accrued to the current retirees and to the current active members. And if the assets in the individual VSF are greater than or equal to that liability, then there's no transfer from the main fund to the variable
There's no
supplement
sense
fund.
of bleeding funds out of the main fund if you don't have
Essentially,
to.
don't pre-fund the VSFs. That's correct.
So that's
Still in place, and not just limited to NICERs. That's also for teachers and
I know for
fire and
police and
as
fire
well.
it's a big thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well that's reassuring. And then the hierarchy of the assets again, 1, 2, 3. I had it someplace.
All right.
Yeah. Again, every fund had the GASB 72 disclosure.
That's correct.
And you didn't necessarily take it upon yourself to do the level 1, level 2, 3. It was under discussion, or was you interpreted the 72, this is the way it should be?
The city's management reported the leveling, and they consulted their fund advisors. We checked the appropriateness of the leveling. We also checked the valuations as well. So,
No, in NICERS, the total investments on the balance sheet were 60 billion, 469, et cetera, and that's exactly what's on page 34. So, in other words, you were able to pick up all the assets, or whoever did it.
right.
It's just,
I just found my concern about the lending transactions.
could you give me let me finish the
Oh, I'm
thought.
sorry.
No.
Forgive me.
I'll ask the controller. This level 1, 2, and 3 could be dangerous, couldn't it? For want of a better term.
It's required.
It's required.
It's required.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me go back. There's some language. It's in. I'm looking at one of the other documents, but I think they're all the same. It says that the. Let's see.
What page are you on?
I have to find it in the one you were talking about. The contract with the systems custodian requires a security lending agent to indemnify the system for what? There's some words missing there.
Yeah.
And then
Contracts
it says.
with the plan. So I'm on page 24 in the lending transaction section.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm
where you
actually
are?
seeing it in because they're all the same.
Contract with the plan custodian.
I see it in the New York City retirement.
So the language I'm looking at says the contract with plan custodian requires borrowers to indemnify the plan if borrowers fail to return.
Yeah.
You don't see that.
The contract requires to indemnify the system.
plan. Oh, okay. So NICERS, if you
They're
the
different.
NICERS,
Different
the NICERS
places.
language is what it should say. We'll make sure
you might want to look at that.
That's fine.
And then there's some other line. I'll give you this stuff, and you can compare it all because they're.
So if you look at the NICERS
it's different.
financial, I think it's correct. So
Okay. Well, all right. Well,
and
there's
we'll make
another
sure-
language here.
we'll
It
make
says
sure
the
they're
weighted average maturity is 46.
I
have
didn't-
no idea of what.
I didn't add it up, but I think the securities lending income is pretty significant for us over the 5 systems.
Yeah, I mean, we're lending about $16 billion of security. It's a significant number.
We're earning more than $100 million, I think,
Yes.
over the 5 systems.
Yes, we are.
Oh, it's a nice source of income.
It is.
Well, you got to watch them. That's the thing.
Yes, there was we ended up being stuck a few years ago.
So we've finally written off the rest of that loss. So that's a little bit.
But I guess the custodian didn't have any responsibility for it at that time.
It's an ongoing legal matter.
You're still suing him?
It's
Oh no! All right.
not over that, but probably other things.
Now, there's another language here. I can't remember who has it, but it talks about investments in any one entity that represent 5% or more in the net position. That's not true because we have government bonds that tend to be more than 5% in each of these. And I know that the risk is different.
You're looking at
concentration of credit risk
Okay.
language. I don't have it in front of me.
I'll find. Okay.
I'm looking at a prior one that I didn't have in front of me.
An older issue. Back in 2009, OTB.
What did you say?
Back in 2009, OTB went bankrupt or filed for bankruptcy. How does that impact any of these statements? Or actually impact the cost?
Do you want to answer,
They're treated
John?
as a going concern. So they're they're still treated as a going concern for actuarial purposes.
For actuarial purposes. And functionally?
But we're not collecting anything.
Well, on the as part of the financial statements, it's one of the receivables.
So it's
there.
So we're still carrying it.
You're carrying it as if you're
haven't-
going to eventually receive the money for the cost of these folks.
Right, and I
Still
think,
treated that way.
and I think the law department is involved in that too. So, who knows how long that's going to?
Just curious if, in fact, that didn't happen. Do you know what the liability would be? If they weren't somehow resolved as a going concern and somebody didn't cough up their contribution?
And for the value of the receivable, essentially.
The value of the receivable or the value of the liability to the totality of the OTB employees?
The liability or receivable to the system.
I'm sorry, let me answer the first question, the first comment. It's about $70 million that has not been contributed since 2010, if I remember that correctly. We put that number on the appropriation letter every year. There are about 1,000 OTB members still in NICERS, none of them on active payroll any longer. We value them each year, and we determine an employer contribution each year, which I believe is in the $10 to $12 million range. And we include them as an obligor in the NICERS valuation every year. So the answer is yes, we do have. I can tell you what the liability for those 1,000 members are. I don't have it with me. So I can't tell you right now.
And until this is resolved, we have a growing receivable because the contribution's not being made?
That's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just curious to know what that accumulated liability is, how big it is. It's bigger than a breadbasket.
I'll give it to you when I get back to the office.
You send it to the secretary and then she can forward
Okay.
it to me.
I hate to keep coming back at you, the security lending, but there's a statement in someplace in one of these that as of net position date, the maturities of the investment made with the cash collateral on average exceed the maturities of the securities loan. When I was in that business, you never let that happen because you were you wanted to have the maturity on the that was securing you. Otherwise, there's a mismatch here.
I'm looking for the language. Give me 1 second.
I'm sorry, I'll find it.
I know what it says. So in general, our fixed income portfolio is longer than our reinvestment pool. Our fixed income portfolio has a long duration, and our reinvestment pool is 90 days. So it's gonna have that attribute.
So what happens if you want to?
So what you're worried about is if we don't get our long-term security back and we're invested short-term,
or the other way around,
and then so we're indemnified in the first case. That's borrower risk, and that's the bank. So the bank is on the hook for that. When you say the other way around,
the maturity of the investments made with the cash collateral exceed the maturity of the securities. So
no,
you
that
invested
can't.
Long.
That can't happen. No, we wouldn't have done that. Where does it say that?
I'll read you the sentence. It says,
Okay.
as of net position date, the maturity of the investments made with cash collateral on average exceed the maturity of the securities loans by approximately 30 days.
Oh, the loan. No, that doesn't make sense. I need to find that. That shouldn't. That
Shouldn't be.
No, that shouldn't be.
Okay.
If you could point me there.
They have to. Now, let me say one thing.
Should be the other way around.
Benefit here. What bothers me about this is not the specifics. This is something that deals with June 30, 2015. Here we are sitting almost in 3/4 of a year since then, and we see it. And the only thing that we can do is raise nitpicking stuff like this, and it seems to me that we got to find a way. I keep saying this, but each time I do it,
You want to get it sooner.
that not being able to interact with this thing when a change can be made, it seems to me is to create the wrong impression of what an audit committee is about.
Mark, maybe we should have like an executive session, organizational discussion.
Into the mic.
I think it would be worthwhile if we had an executive organizational discussion, talk
I
about
think so.
how we should be dealing and handling with some things.
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it's nothing we can do, but
Well, maybe not, but I think it's worthwhile
Yeah, no,
as
it's
a
worth a
separate topic
discussion in the executive
to
section.
take
He's
that
right.
whole topic on.
well, too many people here. Each time I read it, I get frustrated.
I guess on the securities lending, and then maybe I'll leave it. Do you have a limit as to how much you'll lend to someone?
So
Because
there
I'm being-
are limits as to what you can
I'm
lend.
sorry?
There are limits as the borrower. There are limits on borrowers. There's limits to how much of the portfolio we would put out on loan at any one time. So no more than 30% of the portfolio could be on loan, and we've never exceeded 16%. So a very small portion's out on loan.
So you've never exceeded even
16.
less than the 30.
We've never exceeded 16% historically.
What you need is a damn good margin department someplace.
And you say Citibank watches it for you?
Citibank's our current lending agent.
Yeah.
They're our current lending agent.
And they get a fee for that, of course.
And they get a fee for that.
No, they're entitled to that.
They make a lot of
They
money.
just got to
that
watch
way.
it. That's all. They,
Yeah, so we've made the reinvestment guidelines much more conservative than in the past, and basically there's little or no risk in the reinvestment side, but you can never say none.
Given the importance of this security lending to certain parts of the securities industry, do you put this out for bids on a regular basis?
The portfolio,
Or the opportunity to be the lender.
So Citibank is constantly putting it out for bid in the marketplace.
No,
But we don't necessarily rebid the program
what he
out
has
all the
stated.
time now.
The business of lending securities is critical with hedge funds and people like that.
Yes.
And so the people who do the lending get a lot of peripheral benefits out of being the source of lendable securities. And that seems to me should be taken into account when they bid. And I'm asking whether or not we evaluate whether we're getting full value for what we're providing.
So we do evaluate the return on the program. So we do look at who they lend to. We do look at who their borrowers are. That does change over time. But we don't look for a new lending agent. We do that roughly every 3 to 4 years. So maybe I'm not getting, but as far as the portfolio being rebid in the
I'm
marketplace,
off that one. I'm just trying to figure out. There's a very valuable attribute to be able to lend securities.
So about 3 or 4 years, we look at agents, we look at the change in the marketplace. We don't wait.
How long
for that.
have you had Citibank doing
Citibank started in November 2013, and we're currently evaluating the product now.
So they're quite new to this.
Yes. Well, they're new to us.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to move it. All right. Are there any other questions for the representatives of the New York City Employees Retirement System? If not, thank you very much, and we'll go to the uniform system. Nice seeing you again, John.
Okay, take care.
I know. He is.
I give you the grammatical mistakes later.
Oh, what's next, police there?
Yeah. What?
I said they look happy.
You know, they know it's coming. But there was some substantive questions. I was looking at, I had marked up the other thing, and I was looking at the blue book instead of my markup.
Yes, Abe retired. Are you from the police system?
Yes.
You'll introduce yourselves. Abe Kapilski, he's retired?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see him. Go ahead.
And I am the acting chief accountant. My name is Sunny.
Speak into the mic. Go ahead.
My name is Patrick Dale from the accounting unit.
From?
Accounting, police.
Okay. And you, ma'am? Do you have a little statement on the MD&A, or go ahead? Speak into the mic. The button. That's it.
Has to be a degree.
The fund's net position restricted for benefits increased by 3% to 35.2 billion in 2015 compared to 2014, and increased by 17% to 34.3 billion in 14 compared to 13. This is due to an increase in the fair value of investments and continued growth of national economy.
That's your?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one overall question for all the pension funds. When I looked at how many different managers you have with these things, it's possible at any given moment you may be a buyer and a seller of the same security.
That's possible.
More likely than
It's
not,
possible.
as a matter of fact.
Well,
that's a good point.
Does anybody look at that?
We do look at it. We're actually building a risk system that will give us more real-time data on that. So we haven't, but we do check that from time to time. It doesn't happen as much as you think, but we're going to have more real-time data on that next year.
Your variable supplement funds have gotten quite large.
Yes. Because we have a transfer from the
I
main.
don't hear you, ma'am.
Because we have a transfer from the main fund.
John, help me. When do they do the transfer? If the equities outperform the fixed income, or I'm wrong?
No, sir, that's correct. At each June 30th, a benchmark is established.
Okay.
It's actually 115% of a average of a 10-year Treasury bond over the prior year.
Over the
prior 12 months.
Very good, sir.
So that's the benchmark. Then the Comptroller's Office provides us with the return on the equity portion of the investments of each of NYSERS, police, and fire.
Very good.
If the return on the equities outperforms what those equities would have performed had they been invested at the benchmark, then there's an amount that could be available for transfer.
Provided
The
it's
proverbial
needed.
skim.
Provided it's needed to pay the benefits.
Well, we do several tests. Number one is if there's a deficit, deficits accumulate.
That takes off.
So beginning in 2001, there were large deficits. So even in years when the equities outperformed the benchmark, they were unable to overcome the deficit until 2014. So 2014 was the first time that a transfer actually occurred from the main fund to the VSFs. Each year that a transfer is available, we will calculate that maximum amount that can be transferred based on the liabilities of each individual VSF.
Thank you so much. Very good.
Yes, sir.
And the maximum benefit is still 12,500?
Yes.
12,000.
12,000, right,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
My memory is hazy, going back 30 years. And let's say they have to be a service retiree to get it?
Yes.
Service retiree with 20 years of service. So they have to retire for service. Disabilities do not.
Are excluded.
That's correct.
And
only payable to the retiree,
And what-
not payable to a survivor.
it's not a pension.
No, sir, it's
I'm
not
sorry.
a pension.
I mean, right, Mike? It's not a
Yeah,
pension.
it's not a pension.
And when they start, what is the beginning benefit? 2,500.
Yes.
Going to 12,000.
Yeah. I think for the superior officers starting from.
I'm sorry.
Superior officers starting from 5,000.
Okay, and it
And
goes up by.
every year like $500, $1,500 more, something like that.
We saved the city billions when we corrected this. We saved billions. I mean it.
Yes,
We
sir.
saved billions to the city. A lot of people worked hard. What? Yes, Michelle.
Thank you. On page 15 of your financial statements.
15?
15, 1-5.
Okay. good.
The second paragraph says the QPP currently administers 4 pension tiers. It then goes on to list 3 tiers, and the
Page
remainder of the disclosure talks only about 3 tiers. Would you explain that, please?
Good catch.
Michelle? There are tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and essentially tier 6. However, there's a very small difference between tier 3 and tier 6 for police and fire. So both police and fire refer to what we would call tier 6 as either tier 3 modified or tier 3 revised.
But the fire actually discloses that. The fire statement actually lists that tier and discusses it in their footnotes. And you don't.
So next time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, while we're at that one, if you turn to page 14, I didn't understand this one. The QPP Board of Trustees is a representative of the mayor. The PSOV is the mayor, and it can't be the mayor. It must be his representative. It must be consistent, no?
What page are you on, Mark?
Page 14. I can't imagine the mayor coming to something like this.
Oh, as a representative.
Well, but that's not what it says.
They usually have the finance commission.
No,
right?
all I'm saying is you're missing the words representative in the second and third paragraphs. That's all.
You would know, right?
It's currently John Adler, who's heads of the mayor's office of pension investments.
I'm just
Mopi.
pointing out there's a word missing in each case. That's all. I have another question. On page 22, you say the funds deposited are insured by the FDIC and collateralized by securities. If they're insured, what? You don't need collateral. Or is it the fact that they can't be all FDIC be FDIC insured?
They're considered insured.
And you do need the collateral. Doesn't make sense to me.
It's,
Am I right?
it's the first half of the sentence.
Take a look. I think it's...
Yeah, we need to talk to finance.
Now, here's something that's the lawyer in me. Forgive me. You have a statement in the footnote on foreign currency risk.
What page?
Page 23. It says the currency markets prove to be a good diversifier. That's a flat-out statement. If I were your lawyer, I'd never let you say that. I would qualify that with some form of belief, because you don't want to live or die on whether that is. But let somebody else worry about that one.
Okay.
We'll take. You could change it next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I would. Now, there's another thing. Maybe I missed it. There's a word called page 35 called corpus funding. What is that?
It says
Page 35.
That's the payment of the administrative expenses
Okay.
for the retirement system out of the assets of the QPP.
Well, should that somehow be defined? I mean, it doesn't necessarily convey that. The words.
I guess it could be expanded on to be more clear what it means.
And kind of a follow-up on that, since we've gone to corpus funding, I believe that quite a bit of investment is made in computer and data processing and what have you at the police department. I know that not all the systems are at the same state of development. Could you give me some idea where you are as far as your technology and as far as recovery, backup, space along that plan line? Are you fully developed and have everything you need, or is there still work to be done?
About the disaster recovery, we completed the enhancement of a disaster recovery in Stacknell and Telhouse. We started testing Microsoft Windows 10 Office and Office software in 2016.
I'm sorry, you're doing it or you're going to do it? I didn't follow.
In 2016, we're going to.
Okay. And how much are you going to be spending on that?
She doesn't know.
We don't know the projection.
You don't know the answer.
Is there any kind of public document evaluating that system so we know what changes we're making and why we're doing them? I mean, we have 5 different pension systems that seem to be at different stages of development, and we don't really know where they are or what they're doing.
If you're looking to me for an answer, sir, I cannot accommodate you.
I'm sorry, Michelle?
The operating expenses are funded out of corpus. The systems have a great deal of flexibility in how they utilize that funds and what they develop. And what I'm really asking for is kind of an analysis. Beyond the day-to-day costs of paying for your staff and administration, there's large expenses going for other things. I'd be curious to know what that is, what the goals are, objectives, and time frames.
If maybe I can rephrase that, each of the systems, at least at NYSERS, there's a budget presentation done by the executive director and their staffs as to the request as part of the budget request, what the IT and other expansion will look like. And I know OMB has been very good at asking questions at NYSERS about those expansions. Is there such a presentation, whether it's slides or otherwise, that was provided to the board members of the police pension system, and whether or not any of that information could be shared with this board so we could take a look at what the expected project will cost and what features it would occur, and it could compare that to the other systems? Or is that something that you could go back to and talk to the executive director about, and then inform our Jackie as to the information that could pass it along to this board?
Sure.
Thank you.
If you can get a response, could you please send it to Miss Jackie Thompson, who is the secretary of our audit committee, and she'll distribute it.
Sure.
She'll give you a number. I was just going to ask you, of the investment advisors that you have the same ones for the variable supplement funds and for the main fund?
So the variable funds would choose from the managers that were hired for the main fund.
The main fund.
It's a subset.
Because the variables also diversify their investments.
Yes. There's not a formal asset allocation.
Sorry, sir?
There's no formal asset allocation at the variable level, but they do leverage off of the work of the main fund.
There is no.
There's no formal.
They can decide how they want to allocate.
Yeah. They follow the same policy,
Pretty much follows.
But it's going to depend on the level of assets at that moment in time.
I think they're doing okay financially.
They're doing.
They
do well.
So.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I just happened to notice on page 27, getting back to Mark's question, collateral from securities lending is level 2.
Same theory as the auction.
Page 27. All right. Yeah. I mean, is that true in all of them? You're gonna.
They should all be level 2.
I'm sorry.
They should all be level 2.
They should all be
to
level
be consistent.
2. And the U.S. government agency, $7.5 billion is level 2. It don't make sense. It's a dangerous. Gatsby has to be discussed. They have to really go back over and look at these definitions. All right. I could understand the alternative investments being level 3, but some of the other things.
Some of the level 3.
But at least the numbers tie in. All right.
You hope.
No, they're pretty good. They're good. Of the retirees every year, would you know the percentage that are service retirees and the percentage that are disability retirees? Would you have that statistic, ma'am?
No.
Do you have it in here?
No.
No.
Yeah.
You're still in police.
Maybe it's in the main cafe. John, the reason I'm asking it is, I imagine, do you think you know that?
Not off the top of my head. We reconcile by retirement category.
Okay.
So I can tell you on an annual basis and going back as far as you want, how many people each year retired for a specific reason with the
I'm just trying to determine if the variables have helped to keep down the disability retirements. It may or may not, I don't know. May.
I think a preponderance of the police...
I'm sorry?
I believe a preponderance of the police retirees are service retirees.
Whereas in fire, it's the other way.
Fire, it's the other way, yes, sir.
Okay. Same thing for years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
You could look on page 14.
Page 14?
Yeah, it'll give you some information. It's not going to answer the question you're asking now.
I see, just at the bottom.
Yeah. Someplace in here, there's a statement that is consistent with saying the police stay on and the firemen retire early. I don't remember where it was. Someplace.
Yeah, it's in.
I think there's some value, if you can, next year, is be sure that the disclosures on everything which are in all of these are the same, so that you don't read them and find differences.
We try.
We did attempt to do that over the years, and I think you see some of that, but I would agree. Part of it is each system takes its own ownership in their reports, and some are pretty passionate about the wording.
Okay.
But I think your auditors next year can certainly work on that.
Well, it's not the auditors, it's the systems ought to get
Well, the
together.
systems, right, with the guidance of the auditors.
Figure out it makes it easier on the reader if they're all consistent.
If there are no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you'll get she'll contact you.
Sure.
All right.
We'll do fire next.
Hot stuff. Sorry for that.
Repeat. The uniform forces are like that. They are like that. The uniform forces. They don't get
Stay, we have to say
There's not a heck of a lot left.
it. It is.
Communications
They
skills.
insist that the uniform force member counseling. Not, you know, it's like the army.
Here's the try, I don't have that.
You want to get? Why don't you move closer, sir? You'll all have lines. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
I got the friend.
Angel Garcia, New York City Fire Department Pension Fund.
Maureen Dale, the Fire Department Pension.
Agnes Chen, Fire Department Pension Fund.
Okay. Did you have any statement from the MD&A, or you?
Well, the MD&A was written by Miss Dale, and she could enlighten you on any question you have.
Okay. Well done. Okay.
That's terrible.
That's passing the buck. What am I on? I'm on the fire department, huh?
Oh, this is better. Okay. For fiscal year 2015, the pension fund grew by 1.9%.
Yeah, that's more.
And we were able to cover our expenses by a combination of contributions and investment income.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question about investment income. It applies to all these statements.
You had a question, Mark?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Investment income is interest and dividends, but
Plus-
you also include capital gains in the investment income.
No, it includes the
That's
appreciation.
the net appreciation.
Net appreciation.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is a non-cash.
it's not. It's a non-cash item.
Right.
And
It's like depreciation.
no, it's real.
No, it's real.
Stock went up 100 to 150.
Yeah, it goes up or it goes down. Yeah, go ahead,
And
go ahead.
My trouble with it is that treating that as investment income, maybe that's an artifact of GAAP.
You may want to direct that question.
I
to-
am. But
Go
whether
ahead,
or not
Controller.
it would be more informative to know how much was income the way I think of it and how much was appreciation in the value of the portfolio.
That is,
Well, it's
in
disclosed on the face of the financials. You could see it. It's separate.
No, I know you can, but the language here, well...
Yeah, that is a requirement of the GASB standards for
Yeah, that's the way
reporting.
they want
So
it.
yes,
Yeah.
realized and unrealized appreciation or depreciation affects investment income.
Yeah, I know. I think I never give up trying.
Yeah.
But Mark, that's why it has to be broken out separately from,
You
while
show it on
it's
a separate
part-
line, yeah.
That's why it's a separate line.
Yeah, but it's not in the narrative.
There's a policy
It's
on
in the
it.
body of the financials.
I could.
Okay. Up here.
All the same. Given the size of these funds, do they have their own audit committees?
Each system has I wouldn't say audit committee, they have their board of trustees,
No, I
which
understand that.
function as the governance structure for them.
So they pray over these things collectively at a meeting?
Yes, they do. Yeah, we at the end of each system's audit, we do go and present. We present in the planning phase to them, and then we go through and we have a presentation at the ending of the audit where they're approving the issuance of the financials. So they have questions, they ask questions then. The only one that we didn't meet with this year was Burrs, and that was because of what you heard.
But you heard of that,
the
those
change in
changes.
director. Yeah.
But understand that, sir.
But normally we meet with each system twice a year.
And that's when you meet with the board of trustees, that's before you issue the financial.
You meet with them before you release it, right?
Yeah, we have them ready. Everything's
brief them.
drafted, and they have to approve it. They're the ones that ultimately have
Just like we have to approve the
That's
audit.
exactly
Very
right.
good.
Same process. yeah.
Very good, sir. On page 37, John, it's hard to believe. I'll show you what I'm saying. The percentages on the variable supplement funds. Terrific.
Yes, sir.
Many years ago, some of them were going the other way.
And in fact, they did benefit from.
I'm sorry?
They did benefit from transfers in 2014 and 2015.
They got the cash, sure.
They got the cash, and they also had good returns in 2013 and 2014.
No, that's terrific.
Yeah. Nothing new there.
In here, they don't calculate the funded ratio. You have it in our CAFA, but not in this one?
The disclosures are in accordance with GASB 67
Okay, so
and
if they
68.
don't ask for it, you do it this way. Okay, no, that's okay. I could live with that. These are good surrogates, I'd say. I mean, really, you've clarified that.
Yes,
I'm very happy with that. But each pension fund has its own investment advisors.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
some may do
some
more
may
than
overlap,
one.
but
I'm sorry, sir.
Each one makes an independent decision on who their investment advisors
Do we have
are.
some investment advisors that do a few funds?
Yes.
Almost necessity with this size fund. You're bound to have that happen.
Oh. When I was at the MTA and I was doing the pensions, I remember New England Pension. You still have the New England Pension on this
That's
fund?
a consultant.
Yeah, no, they're a very good company. Okay. There isn't much. And the variable supplement funds that were transferred, that's just in accordance with the requirements.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, very good, John. If there are no other questions, thank you all.
Thank you. Are we all done now with that? Done them all, huh?
Well, it's the police. They're so new they didn't know we can answer.
I know.
The police.
Hey, you want the
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
We should, yeah.
Yes, we will. With you guys, right? I think we should always have an executive session with the auditors.
You had one at the beginning. You want another one?
Not with them.
No. All right. John, I just want to thank you for coming and for your assistance, and David, very, very well done, and the Deloitte people for their wonderful job. Thank you. I think they were very well done. And with that, I'd like the motion to adjourn the meeting.
I don't care, but I'm just saying that
Did you want executive
in the
session?
private sector where I operate,
He's
you
making
never
me
let the
cry.
auditors
Motion
out.
to adjourn.
Okay, good. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
I have some changes on the minutes.
Oh, no, I'm actually proud of you. I'm actually proud of you.
Yes,
You want to take
because
the
I
minutes,
think
we
it's a
don't.